She's from Beaumont, Texas, and a recent graduate of Grambling State University. So let's bring her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you guys ready for some good dialogue and discussion about some real issues and topics that we might not always be the most comfortable discussing and talking about? It might be some issues you might talk about with your friends at home, but we're going to bring them front and center to you this afternoon. But before we get started, I'd like all of our panelists to introduce themselves. We'll start with you.
Good afternoon. My name is Toya Graham. I am Executive Director of the Carolyn W. and Charles T. Beard Family Foundation here in Shreveport. I am also a doctoral student at Louisiana Tech University.
Give her a round of applause. You can do better than that.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerome Atkins. I am the CEO of So Blessed Lifestyle, and I'm also the founder of Power of Support.
Good afternoon, my name is Danny Martin. I'm the CEO and founder of the LOUD Foundation, which means leading others under determination. We go by the goal that you have to be a determined leader in order to lead. I'm also a motivational speaker for kids in elementary school and middle school.
My name is Andrew Wilson. I am president of the Shreveport chapter of Association of Black Social Workers, owner of Social Work Professional Services, Department of Children and Family Services, and a private contractor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Juanice Moses. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Life Changing Solutions.
Good afternoon, Dr. Kirk Williams here. I am Global Manager for Hitachi Data Systems and founder of the Daydream Foundation here in Shreveport.
I would like to personally thank all of our panelists for you being willing to come up here and share your own personal life experiences. And at the end of the day, this is all a dialogue and discussion so we can all uplift and better one another in our entire community. So I would like to thank all of you for being willing to come up here and share your stories and your voices. So once again, thanks to all of you for doing this. Give them all a round of applause. So tonight, well this afternoon, we're talking about the extinction of the Black family. That's something that most of you might not see discussed every day. So that's why I think this is a good dialogue for all of us. So the first question for all of you, do you think the extinction of the Black family has anything to do with the emasculation of the Black man? Who would like to take that question first? Do any of you think that the extinction of the Black family has anything to do with the emasculation of the Black man? Who would like to take that question first?
I'll take it first, and I'll be the guinea pig. What a question, what a question. And I looked up that word emasculation, and after I read that question, and it means to castrate and to take away the manliness of our men. And this panel and I, before we started, we grappled with that, you know, and a few of us in here work in the mental health profession. And so we just don't talk about this. We see these people. We help these people, our people, on a daily basis. We see, personally, I see our family as, the African American family, as struggling from the legacy of discrimination, Jim Crow, and the likes. You know, we are the only people in the world that has endured such atrocities, you know. And so I see us as struggling and surviving, but we are a mighty nation. You know, we're like giants that are still sleeping. We're an awesome people, and I don't see it. We're too strong to go by the wayside. We've come too far. We're a mighty nation. And that's my response to the extinction of the Black family.
You know, I have to say that when we look at the emasculation of the Black male as an excuse, if you will, for the erosion of the black family? I have to say no. And the reason I say no is because of this. We spent hundreds of years in slavery. Slavery is a direct emasculation of men. So we have grown up in a society where there has been emasculation of the black man ever since we came to this country. So looking at that now would simply be an excuse. We have allowed the black family to erode. And most of those things were not of our control. Some socioeconomic things that have existed, a lot of those political institutions that have existed, that has helped to cause the erosion of the black family. But let's not blame that on the emasculation of the black man. We have allowed that to happen. Emasculation is one of those things that it's almost like self-esteem. It's the esteem of you. You should not allow anyone to take that manhood from you. We have allowed that to happen. And the way for our black families to regain some of that structure is as a black man, we have to take that manhood back. We just have to take that manhood back. No one can take that from us. We've allowed that to happen.
I'm curious to hear from some of the ladies on the panel. What's your thoughts on the extinction of the black man, of the black family having to do with the emasculation of men?
I appreciate the comments that Kurt just shared with regard to him not necessarily agreeing with the idea that the emasculation of the black man has affected the extinction of the black family. And before I give my response, a few of us talked about the topic for this particular panel, the extinction of the black family, and we had some issues with the idea of the black family being extinct. I think there are different definitions as to how we might define the black family today, but we are far from extinct. I actually agree with the question. I think that the black man has been devalued in a number of different ways in our society. This starts in boyhood. Just looking at Caddo Parish education statistics, black boys lead Caddo Parish in the number of students who are suspended from the school district, expelled from the school district. They are underrepresented in gifted and talent programs, but they are overrepresented in these disciplinary infractions. This, of course, leads to boys dropping out of school. In Caddo Parish, close to seven, we could say six out of every 10 black boys do not graduate. Our graduation rate for black boys is 38%. So you, in a sense, you have a population of young boys who become men who are not able to be a part of the family unit. And that starts in boyhood from a lot of these discriminatory actions that take place in school and other realms of society too. I just chose to focus on the education system. And so when I share my thoughts about the different questions, I also want to offer solutions, because I think that we're here to have these hard conversations so we can identify the strengths that we have in our community and share those solutions that we're already seeing. One solution that I see related to this emasculation of black males, and in particular boys in the education system, is advocacy. Your son might be doing well. You might know how to navigate the system and demand that your child attend a school that gives him the tools that he needs to appropriately compete in this education arena. Share that with other mothers, other fathers who might not know how to navigate that system, regardless of the school that their child happens to be attending. So it's called upon you to take care of everyone else also. And then also valuing the role of men. I think I can only speak for myself. I won't generalize everyone else, but At times, we devalue the role of a man in a child's life, whether he can or cannot contribute financially. So really make sure that you're not a part of that trajectory that adds to the black man not really being an important person in a child's life.
My response to that question is yes and no. And no, because I have a problem with extinction. When we get to talking about things like this, yes, I will say yes because at no time in history has our young boys never been able to see a working man. Even when we're talking about slavery or whatever it is the case, whether they were in the field, that man was still working. You still got an opportunity to see a man work. At this point, when we look around and we look in our community, what we consider work is not what my grandfather considered work. And so when we start going through stuff like that and kind of redefining work, that's why my answer is yes, because a lot of the boys, and myself included, I had no male figure in my life for 20 years. So for me, work meant something else.
Now, I'm gonna do it a little different because I believe in audience participation. So what I want everybody to do is just stand up with me, stand up. Everybody just stand up. And just raise your right hand. And just repeat after me, say I fail. There you go. Now, the reason why I done that because nobody wants to take responsibility of our kids. Nobody wants to take responsibility. Everybody want to point at the black man. Like Jerome and I, we didn't have a father figure. We both raised up with our mom. Earlier I was watching this feed on YouTube Live, and Mama Carthon stood up and said she raised 13 kids by herself, no father figure. That means she took accountability for herself and her kids. We developed a mental mindset to say, if it's not our child, then I don't care. We developed a mindset, so we're inducting ourselves into our own mental slavery. So many times, you see people walking on the street with their pants sagging, we'll sit back, talk about like, look at the thug. Instead of walking up to them, educating. Jerome, I seen this guy many times. Come here, little young brother, let me talk to you. He seen me many times. Hey, let me holler at you for a second. This is what we need. It's not the demasculation of men, it's the demasculation of everybody. Because you're castrating our children way before they're born. You're not even giving them a chance to even be introduced into manhood. A lot of times people say it takes a man to raise a man. I'm a man. My dad didn't raise me. Jerome, a man. His dad didn't raise him. So this all boils down to taking responsibility for our kids. Our kids they're so stuck on what they see because they're so judgmental. That's why I wore this shirt, only God can judge me. Nowadays, our kids don't care. Nowadays, our adults don't care. There's a lot of adults I see every single day that don't care about our kids. They will walk right past them, starving on the street. That's not my child. Thank you.
One other thing that came across my mind, and when we're talking about extinction, I think our greatest threat in this millennium is the mass incarceration of African American men. You know, I find that that's an assault or threat on our people. You know, and the Association of Black Social Workers have brought this to the full light before the presidential candidates just started talking about it. We've been on the cutting edge of this particular topic long ago, and it's a threat. Everybody's making money off of us. Judges, lawyers, you know, attorneys, you know, down the road, everybody's getting paid because of us. It's a huge industry now to incarcerate our people. And but the gates and the jail cells are starting to open now, and the people in Washington D.C. is starting to watch, you know, and taxpayers are becoming fed up with it because it's just a big system. It's a big scam.
Okay, my answer to the question, is it due to the emasculation of the black man? First of all, I don't feel like the black family is extinct. I feel like we have a different family dynamic, but I don't feel like it's extinct when we're talking about the black family. Now, black men, from my opinion, when I see a black man, I see a man. Is he emasculated due to factors that's all the time said and we're taking them on as truths? So we listen to society and we pick up the negative characteristics. And then we take it and we make it a truth. We, as a people, have to turn it around and make our own truth. We have to take the positives of black men and what they have contributed. There have been many black men throughout the years that have contributed to society as a whole, and they did great things. We focus more on the negatives and what has happened, like over incarceration of black men, those types of things, and we break it down and we see the black youth, and we don't, where they're coming from, we keep the negativity there instead of putting the positives there of what they can be. Instead of focusing on emasculating them, let's continue to build them and make sure that they understand what manhood will be like as black men. Just because we don't have black men leading the majority of black households, but you have to look at how the households now are designed. Just in America, the traditional family is really what's becoming extinct, not the black family.
If I could, I just want to echo the sentiment of young man at the end of the table there. There was an African proverb that said it takes a village to raise a child. Somewhere we lost the meaning of that proverb. I can share a story with you. When I was in 5th grade, the only fight I ever had at school was in 5th grade. Only had one. My mother made sure, my mother is 6'2", so she made sure I didn't have another one. But the only fight I ever had at school, I can remember it vividly because I was walking home from school and 4 neighbors, before I got to my house, tore my butt up before I ever got to the house. So when I got to the house, I was already sobbing, so my mother thought it was because of the fight. She took care of me, and my dad took care of me also. But those 4 neighbors on my way home cared. They cared. So we had an entire unit. We had an entire neighborhood that participated in the upbringing of us. Now, like the brother said, we watch kids do something wrong and we'll walk by them and not correct them. I think we should take a charge within ourselves to say, I am going to help somebody in my community. I'm going to help some kid in my community. I'm going to affect change in some kid, even if it's just pull up your pants. Because maybe he'll drop them down later, but he'll pull them up in front of you. And if he does that a few times, he'll respect you enough to always do it. And then he'll start respecting himself. And that's how we can affect some of that change. So we need to remember that it does take a village to raise a child. It's very, very hard for us to do it. And these days and times, with some of the economic situations that exist, very hard for us to do it on our own. But it does take a village to raise a child. And I'll say this also, as you reach out to that child, parents, please be willing to accept that, like we used to be.
Okay, moving on to our next question. Is the extinction of the Black family driven by the need for Black women to be independently successful? Who wants to answer that question first?
I'll take a shot at it. If I may refer to my notes, I said no. I said Black women has to do what they have to do. They are becoming more educated and successful, and rightfully so. I wrote, don't hate. They have always served well, inside and outside of the church, and that I commend them for their great works that they have done. I said that they are doing the best, considering the hand that has been given them to play. Black women has always had to work and contribute to the household. I know my mom did, and so did my grandmother. But compliments of the oppressive, exploitive, and unfair economic systems that we have had to endure, people of color, they're doing a great work. So I see the Black women as strong. I see them as an asset to the Black family. And I think that they're a compliment to the Black man. I don't think that they take away from us. You know, they're a compliment to us. I tell you, I don't know what I'd do without the Black woman. I don't know about y'all.
I have to say, he gave a really good answer. I have to say that.
I appreciate the success of Black women. I do. I definitely appreciate the success of Black women because Black women are strong enough to rise above a lot of the obstacles that have been put in their way. So I appreciate the success of Black women. We are a very, very strong, proud people. Okay. And Black women are the backbone of that pride. Those are the ladies that have us. Those are the ladies that raise us. So I appreciate that success. One of the things that I had to learn, and especially in my family dynamic, one of the things that I had to learn is I entered into a situation with a very, very strong Black woman who had a child already. So she was independent because she had to be. Okay? She was independent because she had to be. But us as Black men have to realize that if you want that strong Black woman to be a part of the unit with you, you have to give them something to cling to. Okay? Anybody ever heard of condensation nuclei? Condensation nuclei is what's in the center of every raindrop that falls on the earth. Okay, so if there's nothing that helps that cloud produce rain, it won't rain. So you have to give something for it to stick to create a raindrop. Fellas, if you think the lady's too strong, maybe it's because you're too weak. Give them something to stick to. Give them something to gravitate to, and they will. I appreciate strong Black women. My mother was a very, very strong Black woman in a lot of ways. Very, very strong Black woman. And I don't think I would have been as strong. My mother and father were together throughout my whole life. But I don't think I would have been as strong as I am with just my dad being the strong person. My mother was there also. So women, I commend you. Please continue to do what you do, and we will make sure that we can elevate ourselves so that you see us in the same light.
Let me say I also commend our women. And just to speak a little bit about my childhood, early on, it seems that my mom raising 3 boys, it seemed like at first it was too much for her. I literally grew up in a crack house. The next room the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. They were all doing drugs, all around. And this is Houston, Texas. This is the 80s. I didn't move to Shreveport until I was 11 years old. And I think one day, after several suicide attempts, my mom realized that she had 3 boys and the cavalry wasn't coming. It was her. She needed to do what she had to do. My mom has been off of drugs for almost 30 years. She is getting ready to retire from Barksdale Air Force Base. And I just felt like on so many levels, our women are in a position that they realize that the cavalry isn't coming. And they do what they have to do.
To go further along about the Black Queens. I'm calling you guys women, I call you my queens. Because I respect you all that much. That's how I greet my wife, that's how I greet my mother, that's how I greet my aunt, that's how I greet my sister, that's how I greet my nieces. I address them as Black Queens. The thing about gaining independence as a woman, you tend to find a lot of women, this is the negative part, everybody say the positive, I'm gonna be the negative. You tend to find a lot of women that develop these egos of saying, I don't need a man. They tend to develop these egos of saying, Happy Father's Day to myself, but you're not a father. You don't have the genitalia parts to be a man. So, the thing is, I respect our Black queens, but some of the Black queens, they have to understand to respect themselves when they get independent. Because independently success will drive a person, and I'm still speaking on top of the Black women, it will drive the Black queen to the point where they just say, to hell with this, I'm done. I'm done. I don't care about my kids. It's all about me. I want to get my hair done. I want to get my nails done. I want to go to It's Fashion, Metro, City Trends, be fly to go to Coco's. And nowadays, I see more independent women. It's scary. Because when you approach them, their personality is so attackful. It's so hateful. It's so much built up animosity towards everybody to where they feel as though they don't need nobody. They turn their backs on the families. They turn their back on the children. It's all about turning up now. So when it comes down to independent success, we gotta look at it 2 different ways. Like I said, I'm gonna be the Simon Cowell of the panel. You know, I'm the negative person. Try not to be, but we have to educate our Black queens. And I mean, not us men, but other Black queens. We have to educate them to respect themselves. Because it's 2 things that's going on in the city right now that I see in our Black queens. When they gain independence, they become nurses, get all this money, they start buying all this stuff. They get comfortable being a thought because they start calling themselves that. This is independent success. They get comfortable with being called a thought. Now, they get comfortable with calling a bad chick, but with the B on it with the TCH. They disrespecting themselves. So this is further along producing so much hate to where they start generating that I'm a man now, and I don't need a man. So when they start getting into that level, that's when you have what we call studs. All these women dating other women. And there's so many out here in the city that I'm in contact with every single day. There's so many people out here in the city that I'm in contact with every single day. They get this sort of drive to where you can't tell them nothing. If they do wrong and they know it's wrong, you better not say nothing. Shut up. And this is how the women are just holding themselves up. They have no standards. They have no morals. Because they get so independent, it's done. They basically reconstructed themselves to be nothing but a level of hate towards everybody. So my question is, how are we gonna get the independent queens back on track? Because I see some beautiful queens in here today. And trust me, my statement's not about you all. I'm just saying, this is what I encounter every day. I speak on personal experiences. But this is what I encounter every day. What are we gonna do to get our independent women back on track?
I appreciate your perspective on it. But I don't agree with the assertion that independent Black women have contributed to the extinction of the Black family. I think you have to consider the experiences of so many successful independent Black women who are holding down households as single parent, as single mothers. And I'll speak from my experience because I think a couple of us have so far. I was raised by a single parent mother. I have 2 siblings, so she was leader of a family of 4. My father was absent up until, I do not remember my father until the age of 12. I have no recollection of a father figure until the age of 12 when my dad decided to change his life around and become active in his kids' lives. So in a sense, as an adult, as an independent Black woman, before even getting married, I experienced certain traumas in my childhood related to having an absent father that caused me to look at life very different. So I knew that I would be independent, and I demanded that whomever I dated, or subsequently my husband who I married, if he didn't meet the standard that I felt that he should be at with me so that we could grow, that I would be there to help him rise to the occasion of meeting that standard. So I guess my point is, you really have to consider some of the experiences that a lot of independent women have had in their lives that caused them to reach a point where they would say things such as, I don't need a man. And men, on the flip side, you all have to work with us on letting us know that you want to be the leaders that we need, and that you will support us through that process of letting go some of the things that we think that we have to do independently. I know my husband had to help me. Lord knows he had to help me with a lot of that. So just keep that in mind. And Jill Scott has a song. The title might not be I Need You, but the whole premise of the song is I Need You. She talks about how women need men in their lives. You might want to check it out. It's a really great song.
And before we move on to our next question, just be mindful that we will open up this discussion and questions to the audience. So if you have any questions, we will get to you as soon as we get through some of these questions. So our next question is, are the benefits of a Black family, hold on, my iPhone, technology. Are the benefits of a Black family being taught to our children regardless if you are a single parent or not?
I think so, particularly in the African American church, and that's why the church is so dear to me, and hopefully it's so dear to each one of us. We live in a day and time where so many of us are crossing over, but it was a Black church that fought the good fight, and got us where we are today. And so I hope the day and time won't come where we will abandon the Black church. And the Black church is really the only institution in the HBCU that we have, that we can call our own. These are 2 institutions that we ought to support and that we ought to embrace. And I just want to put that little infomercial out there before I address the question. And it's a black church. We have our children in the church. That's a good thing, you know, because the church emphasizes the black family. You can't attend the church. The church is a family. It's a family. It's a body of believers. And so you can't be in church and not have a sense of family and unity and cohesiveness. Thank you.
But what happens in the black church when women are overrepresented and men are underrepresented? I think we, of course, we definitely have to consider the black church, but I think we need to have these conversations with youth about the benefits that we see that come out of marriage. And we need to define those benefits for ourselves also. Because the last thing that we want to do is be judgmental to a large segment of our population that includes single parent homes being led by mothers. We definitely do not want them to think that we're judging their, if you want to call it, their plight in a sense. So I think first we definitely need to have some definitions as to what those benefits are, and even how you define the black family. Are we talking about two-parent households? And if we are, what are the economic benefits to that? What are some of the social implications that might go along with having two parents in the household, and so on? So I think it starts with a conversation about definitions, and extending that conversation into the community, even outside of the black church, because we know that many black men are underrepresented in the church.
I ain't gonna talk about black church yet, but the way family is now, and like I said, I speak on personal experience. I'm around a lot of families, and I just sit back and I monitor them. But the way family is now, this is our main communication with people in our household. This is what's teaching our kids. Because just yesterday, I was with a family. I was tutoring their child. He had some little educational problems, but we working with him. But I was tutoring their child, and the entire time, the mother and the father was texting the child that was in the room right over. The more advanced technology becomes, the more primitive black family is. The less we pay attention to our technology and all of our resources, we can start back building black families. Because I think it was this morning when someone said that, I think it was you, Mr. Bradford, you said that the grandmothers don't even have gray hair anymore. They don't. Nowadays, I've been around so many people to where the grandmothers are around my age, in their 30s. They have, their kids have kids that's about to have a child. 13 and 14 years old, about to have a child. So, the thing is, we're in a time where technology is basically the root of destroying the black family. There's no more sitting at the table eating family dinners. There's no more communication within the family. It's all done by text messages and inboxes. Facebook is destroying our family. Social media, period, is destroying our families. Everybody's family, black families, white families, everybody's doing it. Because it's the most, it's becoming such a brand now to where we're adopting it and we're allowing the destruction. Nowadays, on the church topic, people won't even go to church because they say, I can watch church on TV. I ain't gonna go there and pay tithes. I'll pay this bill to keep this electricity on and watch Pastor Jamal Bryant and T.D. Jakes on TVN. I'm not paying no tax. I watch them on TV. I can hoop and holler at Bedroom Baptist. But this is what's raising our children. This is what's destroying our families. This. When I was with that family yesterday, I stopped what I was doing. I was tutoring that child. I stopped. I completely stopped because phone is blowing up back to back, back to back. Boop, 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 boop. Y'all almost finished? You hungry? I'm like, come here. Hey, where your mom and dad at? Tell them to come in here. Look, give me your phones. When I'm teaching, if you want to say something, come in here and say it to them. This is what's raising our children. This is what's teaching our kids about sex. This is what's teaching them about social communication. This is what's educating them. They in classroom. I go to Fair Park almost every other day. They in classrooms asking for tickets for Candy Crush. Like, what? But again, I say, how can we get back to the basis of family values? I pose this question every single day. How can we get back to the basis of family values? Not how can I, but how can we? Because I can't do it by myself. This panel, they can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. How can we get back to the basis of family values?
Good question there. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on. Is Dr. Carla Mitchell here?
Yes.
All right, if you can come forward so we can finish out. I know we have a couple more questions. While she's coming up to the stage, I know we had some questions from audience members, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to come forward and, if you want to be part of the discussion and dialogue, who wants to go up first? Basically, this is focused on the extinction of the Black family. I know we talked about social media, we talked about the role of the church. Did anyone out there have any questions focused on that?
I have one that I can pose. To the panelists, I have a question. How do you feel, do you think homosexuality is destroying what a traditional Black family looks like?
No, I think not. I've come a long way on that, and y'all already know I'm Black Baptist, and I just think that homosexuality has always been a part of our community, and they are as much a part of our community as us heterosexuals are, and I don't see them as a threat to our community. You have always had populations across the globe of gay men and women, and they're just a small minority. They don't add to the gene pool, but I don't see them as a threat to the Black family.
I want to first say thank you. I really appreciate that comment. Homosexuality doesn't have a negative to the, it doesn't add to the erosion of the Black family. As the panelist stated, it's always existed. It's not anything new. The only reason that you hear about it now is because you have those little Facebook machines and Twitter machines where you can see it more often than you saw it then. We didn't have CNN 40, 50 years ago, so you didn't see it as much as you see it now, but it's always been there. So no, I don't think homosexuality has eroded the Black family. It is an institution that stood as long as the Black family has stood. It's just more prevalent, so it's a little bit more accepted than it was prior, but it's always been there.
Any other responses to that? About if homosexuality is impacting the breakdown of the Black family?
And I appreciate all the comments, and I think everybody is talking from their life experiences, so I can certainly appreciate Martin's comments because he's on the ground and he's talking, keeping it real. And I think that most of us are living various lifestyles, upper class, middle class, so we can only talk about our life experiences. But the reality is in the numbers. And we're not sometimes being real. So my question is, if we, and I think the question is relevant, the extension of the black family. And there's always been a myth that to get rid of the black family, you get rid of the male figure. And do you consider it's a conspiracy or just a coincidence that the prisons of the incarceration rate of black males is 10 times more than white? Do you consider it's a coincidence that if you go to city courts or to district courts that the room is packed with black males? And if you look at the Inquisitor or go online and look at the various jail, prison web people, that 90% of them are black males. So is there a conspiracy, in your opinion, from forces outside of our community, is to indeed enhance by the black male by keeping them jobless, keeping them businessless, keeping them incarcerated, charging him for crimes that white guys walk away from? Because if that's the case, then we're going to have to somehow come to the grips that there is an attempt to at least lessen the value of the black family to the extent that we will not get out of this quagmire in which we exist now.
I definitely appreciate that question. I got a chance to talk to panelist Graham before we started, and that topic is actually what I wrote my first dissertation on to get my doctorate. It's not a conspiracy. It's a known fact. Okay, it's a fact. Okay, somewhere down the line we decided to take prisons and take those away from state and federal institutions and make them privatized. So they have become businesses. What is the underlying principle for each one of your businesses out there? It is to make money. That's what businesses do. So when we privatized prisons, what we did was essentially said, okay, prison system, here's your business. How do you plan on making money? Now, if you take a look at the American Constitution and the amendments in the American Constitution, there is one that freed us so that we don't have to be slaves. But the provision in that is if you're incarcerated. Because if you're incarcerated, you don't get a chance to vote. So you don't get to play in the political arena and decide on those folks that are representing you. You don't get the opportunity to do that. So you get to be a part of the free labor system that the prison has. So what they did was they took slavery, changed a few letters around, and just called it prison. That's all it is. So that same workforce, those black men who put the bales of cotton on their backs, they just do it for the prison system now. So it's not a conspiracy, it's the truth. When 13% of your population is black, but over 60% of the prison population is black, there's a problem, ladies and gentlemen. There's a problem. That's a truth. And we have to educate our young men and women so that we do not fall into that stereotype. We have to break that truth. And part of that education, plainly and simply put, is let's do what we're supposed to do when we're supposed to do it. Because yes, we do make up over 60% of that population. But if we remove ourselves from some of those situations that we participate in, we won't have that problem.
Thank you so much. We have a response right here.
Councilman Bradford, I just feel like there is no coincidence. And this is nothing new. Anytime we've had anything going on positive in our community, once again, this is nothing new. Whether we're talking about COINTELPRO, J. Edgar Hoover, anytime we've had positive black figures in our community doing the right thing, they found a way to take them out. Whether we're talking about the Bloods and Crips uniting in LA, they found a way to somehow divide them. It's no coincidence. It's the truth. We can call it conspiracy, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but the fact of the matter is, it's the truth.
Let me follow. My question is simply, and I know it was true when I said it, but I was trying to connect it to how it trickles down into the destruction of the black family. And that if we are accepting the fact that there are forces outside of our community that are intentionally doing damage to our community, and it's affecting, again, in totality. We look at the black community, look at the dropout rates, look at the whole thing, and that somehow that conspiracy, which is a conspiracy, is affecting generation after generation. We can't seem to come up with the proper response to reversing that trend. And I'm saying, how do we take what we know and deal with it, and to make it a more positive thing, instead of making it to where it's only important once it affects my life and my house.
Okay, we're on our last response to that question before we move on.
All right. 3 weeks ago, I met with a couple of brothers, and I was accepted into a particular party. We was talking about how, what you just said, Mr. Bradford, how is it actually destroying the black family? And Huey P. Newton, what he did was he took a program that was designed for black people, which called WIC. He took that program and started it in his neighborhood. He started it all by himself, along with a lot more other brothers and sisters. During this time, the system developed some type of secret agenda to saying black people shouldn't have these type of services without us getting our hands on it first. Now, along with this system, there's predating anybody in this room, because whites been here for a long time, blacks been here for a longer time. But white people created a system to incarcerate more black people because it's better business. The best way to control a mass majority of black people is 2 ways: religion and prisons. Religion and prisons. Now, while you're a part of this system, you have no way of getting out, because once you're in it, you're in it for the overhaul until death. And during this time, how is it affecting our black family is because the mother's in jail, the father's in jail, so the kids basically have to raise themselves. Grandmama, she about 28. She ready to turn up. So you're gonna raise yourself. You're gonna change your own diapers, boo-boo. And that's how it is.
Sorry to cut you off. Thank you so much for that response. For my next question, make sure you all just limit your responses to about a minute. Me personally, working in the media, we see a lot on CNN. You have the reality shows on VH1, Real Housewives, whichever ones you watch. Do you believe children seeing those images on television is kind of breaking down or affecting their image of what a black family should be?
Certainly, I agree. I work with a group of 8th graders at a local middle school. The group consists of, it's a boys group, all black boys in this particular group. And yesterday, our discussion was about identity. Before we move this particular program into a program that focuses on their academic skills and some other areas, we really want them to be aware of who they are. And so yesterday, as I said, the talk was about identity. And one of the questions that I posed to the group was how they define themselves. So I wrote all of the adjectives that they shared on the board. Everything, for the most part, were positive adjectives. But I added a twist to the discussion and asked them how they feel the world views them, or how the world or the media defines black boys. And I actually say the list from the board because nothing was positive, okay? These adjectives are from boys who were 13, 14. We have a couple of them in the group who are 15. They gave me 9 different phrases. Not smart, the media portrays them as troublemakers, violent, thugs, lazy, that black young men abandon their families, that most of them are dead or in jail, that they're drug dealers. And the last one was the one that really struck me. It was that we have great survival skills. At 13, 14, 15, you feel that the media defines you in that way, that you have great survival skills. So my point with that is not necessarily answering your question about family, but when will we get to a point where we define our narratives, right? Where we say, when we talk about the conspiracy or the system that's already set up that's placing so many of our young black men into incarceration, we identify the root causes of some of that and we start demanding some change at an earlier level. All of this starts when kids are in school, when they're being adultified. That's actually a term. It comes from a book by Ann Ferguson. The name of the book is Bad Boys. I highly recommend it. She did conducted a 3-year study at an elementary school, and from that 3-year case study of really identifying how boys created this sense of self at the school, she learned that teachers, both black and white, but mostly white, adultified these boys and gave them these labels of being at risk, which then led to other labels of being unsalvageable, thugs, and many of these other adjectives that the boys described yesterday. All of that affects the black family. It starts early on.
Okay, we're going to take one more response to that question. Anyone have any thoughts on how the black family is portrayed in the media, whether it be television or on the news?
Yes, the media have negative portrayals of the black family, especially in the upcoming reality shows and all of our social media. It actually have a lot of negative portrayal of black families. And yes, it does affect our youth because they're seeing what the media is defining as black success. And then they see how these people act. So they think that this is okay to act this way because these people are successful and they're acting this way. So they're giving them role models and taking it away from the parents and being able to parent them and getting your parents and other successful black leaders as role models. So they're using the media because you can reach more people with the media. And because we have so much technology and we're moving into a world where it's going to be totally technology driven. So yes, this is a way to reach the youth and reach them in a negative light. And if we continue to allow us to be portrayed that way in mass numbers, then of course it will affect the way black families will be in the future.
Ryan had a question.
Being that I had the privilege of putting the panel together and also choosing a moderator, I've had a chance to work with Danny and Jerome on the ground basis. I've had a chance to work with Dr. Mitchell in a certain capacity, and also with Mr. Wilson and Ms. Moses. Kirk and I are responsible for the young men you saw door. The reason I bring it up is to ask this. One thing that we don't talk about inside the black family, and we keep hush-hush, is mental illness. And ever since I've started working in the field that I'm working in right now, I noticed how prevalent it is, how it existed in my own family, and I didn't notice it or know how to diagnose it until I started working in this particular field. That's the conversation that we don't have enough of. Mental illness in the black family. All we do is say, oh, that boy crazy, don't worry about him. Oh, well, he'll be all right. Or take him down there and let him get a check or something like that. These are some of the things that we have to start getting away from. We got to start, not just, well, as far as counseling goes, we have to do more of that, more communication, more talking. Every person I meet that asks me how did I get to the point where I'm at now, I said I became a better man when I became a better communicator. When I'm working with young men inside the community, I talk to them about communication skills. So I pose this question to you as panelists. How do you think mental illness is hurting the black family?
Man, good topic. The National Association of Black Social Workers, March is Social Work Month. So at Southern University of Shreveport on March 9th, the Association of Black Social Workers is holding its 13th annual community forum. And guess what the topic is? Destigmatizing mental health in the African American community. And so I appreciate you, Ryan, for putting that on the table. And for too many of us, for too long, have shunned treatment, counseling, psychotherapy. You know, I've even heard ministers of the gospel preach behind the pulpit. You know, you don't need them pills, throw them pills away. All you need is Jesus Christ. But guess what? Mental illness is a part of life. Just like a person may have high blood pressure, heart disease. You know, the brain, the mind is sick. It gets sick too, and it needs treatment. And so, culturally speaking, we have not always embraced the mental health profession. And I'm glad that you included some of us as a part of this panel.
On this side, did you want to respond to that?
The impact of mental illness on the family, I mean, it just impacts it in so many ways. From our children in schools being suspended because they're unmedicated or it's untreated, from the destruction of relationships within the family when mental illness goes untreated. So it definitely has an impact. I do think that we have come a long way in terms of treating mental illness and as well as accepting it. So we're moving in the right direction. We just still have a lot more work to do.
One more response.
And I have to echo that sentiment. We have come a long way in treating mental illness. One of the things that we have to overcome is the stigma that it's not okay to not be okay. You know, in our community, if we're not okay, we don't like to say it because there's something wrong with you if you're not okay. Well, yeah, there's something wrong with you. And it's okay to have those issues. We have to be willing to get past those negative stigma about mental illness and be willing to go out and seek that kind of advice. And all that comes with communication. We got to be willing to talk to each other. We got to be willing to talk to our children and be willing to talk to each other. But we do need to get past that stigma and be able to understand that it's okay to not always be okay.
All right, well, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for being part of this discussion that was definitely overdue and well needed. We appreciate you all being here. And Brian, do you have any closing statements?
Yeah, one last closing statement. First off, thank you to all the panelists. Give them a round of applause. Also, this is not our last panel of the day. We're going to open the workshops back up, and we're going to come back for one more panel. The last panel is going to be the State of the Black Church. And we have some very good panelists for that, so we want everybody to come back for that. We also want our panelists to stick around if they can for that. Thank you. You know, tell them happy birthday and thank you for coming and everybody for sharing out your Saturday. So thank you so much.
All right, folks, we're going to do our workshop. Don't you leave. We got plenty of t-shirts out there. We need everybody in this section to get a t-shirt. They're only $20. So if you're going to get a t-shirt, you leave a raise your hand. That won't even lie to my face. Huh? In this section. How many t-shirts can we get in this section? All right, Mr. Councilor Bradford got them over there. Okay. All right, folks. Where's our workshop? Where's the workshop guy? We're going to do our last breakout session for our workshops, and then our role of the Black Church panel will start at 3 o'clock. All right, folks. No. Hey, you got the This flyer right here today, the printer left the time out, it's 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock next Friday, Galilee Baptist Church, 7 o'clock.